Well, a happy hump day to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for coming in at 10:30 for your weather impact extended forecast. We're going to break down the forecast for this afternoon specifically, but the same conditions are going to remain present as we go throughout the end of your work week. We saw that one severe thunderstorm warning here in Bibb County yesterday that did traverse a little bit into Twiggs County as well. It's fair share of gusty winds where we got reports of trees down and even some videos where it looked like it was snowing in Central Georgia in April from all of the hail that it was dumping. So do we have the potential for that once again as we continue this very summer-like weather stretch? So that is the main headline. And with the summer-like weather, obviously pop-up showers and storms each and every afternoon when temperatures are at their warmest. And we can't rule out any severe storms like we did see yesterday. We weren't even in a severe outlook whatsoever, but we did see that one severe thunderstorm warning come to fruition. So let's start it out with our quartet of sky cams, starting to see some clearing in the clouds, which is a good and a bad thing. The good part is it's going to lead to a nice image outside in areas like the Georgia National Fairgrounds. Still looks mostly cloudy down here in downtown Macon. Dublin, nice and bright, and Warner Robins, nice and bright. So when we get that clearing in the cloud cover, that's going to heat the surface a little bit more. That's more fuel to the fire for any possible showers that could intensify into some low-end thunderstorms, eventually strong thunderstorms, and after that even reaching the severe criteria if it reaches those parameters of 58-mile-per-hour wind gusts, or if it does have hail 1 inch in diameter or larger. And that's what we got reports of yesterday with that severe thunderstorm warning, some quarter-sized hail in nature. So temperature-wise, continuing to warm up. Macon, the only one remaining in the upper 60s. Everyone else is in the bottom half of the 70s. 70 in Warner Robins, 70 down in Dublin, 71 up in Wrightsville and Sandersville, 73s and 74s in Eatonton, Sparta, Milledgeville, down to Gordon and Wilkinson County. 75, it looks like that's the warmest of the bunch still. And Vidalia, surprise, surprise, down in Toombs County to our southeast. So low 70s, and we will continue the warming trend. But how do we match up with areas all around us in the eastern half of the United States? Well, already see mid and upper 70s in the state of Florida. That's not really a surprise either. Florida's typically running warmer than the rest of the country this time of year. But the warmest point that I do see down in Laredo, Texas, 79 degrees, almost at the 80-degree mark. And keep in mind, they're one time zone over, so they got a little bit of a later start to that sunrise than we did here in Central Georgia. So it is really kind of fascinating to see that temperatures are already in the mid-70s above what our temperatures are here in Macon and other areas all across our neck of the woods. Just to the north of us, maybe some low 70s, mid 60s still hanging out in areas like Lexington, up to St. Louis, Little Rock over in Arkansas. And then you do see that dark blue color up back in the Rocky Mountains and areas in the far northern portion of the country. Still looking like this area of the country is kind of remaining the same in terms of what the temperatures are. Pretty typical of what temperatures are during the middle of the spring season temperatures all across the south and the southeast. So hour by hour, we will continue to climb into the low and eventually mid and upper 70s just past the midday hour. Our meteogram says we're going to top out somewhere around 79 degrees, and that very well may be the case depending on how much cloud cover we have and if we do have any rain in the forecast. And I think that's what the meteogram is actually picking up on, because we see that temperature drop down a little bit from 4 to 5 p.m. Remember, this is typically the time frame that we see our warmest high temperatures in the afternoon. So probably something in the way of rain is going to cool down those temperatures, maybe not even allow them to hit the 80-degree mark for today. However, I have gone on the upper end of the spectrum. I still think low 80s are going to be in the forecast if we don't see any of that rain and the cloud cover is allowed to kind of break apart a little bit. Let's talk about those dew points. Dew point temperatures are up a little bit from this morning, actually seeing some areas in the upper 60s, 67-degree dew point temperature in areas like Milledgeville, Gordon, over to Macon, but we're still not seeing anything in the way of that dark green color, and that's what I was kind of talking about. If we did have some dew points that were closer to the 70-degree mark, actually now looking at it, Unadilla at 69 degrees for that dew point temperature, that's still going to be sufficient enough to sprout some afternoon showers and even possibly some storms. And I won't even say possibly. We saw it come to fruition yesterday with pretty similar dew points. These aren't really going to fluctuate much over the next couple of days. The winds are calm for now. No shades of blue, no shades of green, maybe just a steady breeze out of the east, northeast, 3 to 5, maybe 7 miles per hour at most, but they aren't looking particularly gusty. if we do have any strong to severe storms later this afternoon. You'll have some localized wind gusts that can get up there, maybe even towards 30, 40, even up to 50 miles per hour. Some of those wind gusts can down some trees, down some power lines, like we were talking about down kind of in central Bibb County, down to South Bibb County, and then moving over into the northwest corner of Twiggs. So kind of an active picture satellite and radar wise. We saw a little bit more of an active picture in the northern portion of the state this time yesterday, but we did have some showers pop up in areas like Lawrence County, Johnson County, Washington County, and those intensified a little bit. You actually saw your fair share of scattered lightning strikes right there as these showers continue to train towards Augusta along the Georgia and South Carolina state line. With some scattered sprinkles, maybe a low-end thunderstorm or two trying to cross over the state line from Alabama over to our west. And then up in the northwestern portion of the state, same story, maybe a low-end thunderstorm, actually maybe a singular lightning strike now that I give it a closer look. Most of that has fizzled out in nature up along the I-75 corridor, maybe near Rome, Calhoun, Georgia, as you make your way up to Tennessee, just north of the metro Atlanta area. So it's not necessarily an active picture now, but when we go through FutureView, you will see that this picture does get slightly more active. Let's talk about that surface map, this boundary that we have been referring to for the last 2 days, really, maybe even 3 days, because it did take shape and it had some good motion coming in from the west and the northwest as of Monday. But yesterday we saw it start to slow down a little bit. And remember, I was talking about the left side of this boundary. That was going to continue to become more stationary in nature. Well, now it is draped across Arkansas, all across the state of Tennessee, just north of the Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee state lines. And it does traverse through the western portion of North Carolina before it kind of takes more of a cold front shape. So this right edge of the boundary still has a little bit of slight motion, but we are continuing to watch this move off the Atlantic coast, and it will drag the stationary boundary with it over the course of today into tomorrow. And that stationary boundary will finally be allowed to dissipate. But then we're going to look at another system that is just going to kind of move really close to us, kind of stall in nature, and then really dissolve and fall apart in nature. But actually, all this over here in Texas, you do see a good amount of thunderstorms and some showers. This is actually courtesy of an outflow boundary. This isn't a cold front driving any of this whatsoever. So you hear us talking about those more on the local scale, and it's just really going to be that thin line of very light green that we sometimes see on the radar, just some of those winds that are going outside of typically where the thunderstorms have their direction. That is pretty substantial for an outflow boundary right there, but it can happen in the right environment and really fire up activity like we see in the eastern half of Texas. And areas over to the west of us are actually in a level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. But not to take away from the fact that we have our own severe weather outlook that I'll get to in just a moment. So we didn't show this yesterday because the almanacs were down. They are doing some maintenance on the NOAA weather transmitters. So you may have noticed that yesterday, if you live here in Bibb County, you didn't receive that severe thunderstorm warning via your weather radio and such. And that is because they're doing a scheduled upgrade with it. They kicked it off, I believe, maybe later on Monday into early Tuesday. The good thing is, with that, it is expected to finally complete that update sometime later today. However, it may not be before necessarily we receive any possible severe warnings. So in order to receive any warnings today, your best bet is going to be your mobile device. You can obviously find any warnings that are issued with us on the 13 WMAZ mobile app, and you can find us covering it live on air or on our stream for severe thunderstorm warnings, depending on if we're in the 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock shows, or if it's before then or after then. And we'll continue to be on the stream here on 13 WMAZ Plus and live on Facebook. But I went ahead and did some tinkering, and I manually put in the numbers that we did hit as of yesterday. So 82 was the high temperature yesterday. The morning low dipped down into the upper 50s, 58 degrees. Found ourselves above average for both the average high and the average low, about 4 degrees above the average low and about 3 degrees above the average high. So thankfully continuing to find ourselves just above average, but nowhere near the records that were set back in 1987 and 2021. We dipped as low as freezing temperature all time for the day of February, or not February, excuse me. 32 degrees makes me think it's February, but we're talking April 22nd all time, 2021. So just 4 years ago, we hit freezing temperature in the mornings. Thankfully, we were about 26 degrees above that as of yesterday morning, and 92 was the record high for yesterday back in 1987. And believe it or not, at Middle Georgia Regional Airport, we actually didn't record any precipitation whatsoever. I went back and looked at the radar imagery of that severe thunderstorm, and it passed maybe a couple miles north of the airport down in South Bibb County. So it didn't do anything in terms of helping us out for that yearly average and that year departure of rain. We continue to see that number fall down in that negative direction. So now over an inch and a half below where we should be at this point of the year in terms of rainfall. And then let's talk about the sunrise and sunset times. We did see our first pre-7 a.m. sunrise as of last Saturday morning. That sunrise continues to get earlier and earlier, maybe about a minute every day or two. So 6:56 is when the sun rose this morning, and then the sunset did set yesterday just past the 8 o'clock hour, getting close to 8:10 at night. So creeping towards that 9 o'clock hour. Not quite sure if we'll hit that before we get to June, I believe is 20th or 21st, the first official day of summer and the longest day of the year. So for today, going to have that summer feel in the air once again. Go ahead and get used to it because the summer feel is not going anywhere whatsoever. So some winds out of the east, mainly around 5 miles per hour. But if we do see any stronger weather, maybe a shower, maybe a low-end thunderstorm or a strong to severe storm, those wind gusts can, of course, get locally higher than that. 15 plus is what I've done to cover the bases because it obviously looked pretty weird if I said easterly winds at steady 5 miles per hour, but then I have a wind gust up to 40 miles per hour possible. That's a big range right there, and obviously not everyone going to feel those gusty winds. It's just going to be those areas that have the sufficient ingredients to add a little fuel to the fire for some stronger weather. Afternoon storm chances is the main headline as of today. So I know yesterday we were talking about it. I was saying some slim rain chances in the afternoon hours, and then we saw that one morning pop up in Bibb County. Everything else was going kind of according to what the models did say. Most of the rain was to our north. We just kind of had the sufficient ingredients for a very pop-up like severe thunderstorm to just show up out of nowhere. And it was very, very short-lived. About 30 minutes after that warning was issued, I took a look at the radar and it had virtually fizzled out. We had a couple of lingering showers up in southern Monroe County around the Bolingbroke area. But that's going to be the name of the game throughout today, throughout tomorrow, even a little bit into Friday. We'll talk about the potential for that. And a high temperature of 83 today. So you saw that average high about 79 degrees. That is once again the average high temperature for today. Going to fall maybe 4 or 5 degrees warmer than that average high temperature if we get the clearing in the cloud cover and we don't see any rain until after that warmest portion of the day around 4 or 5 o'clock. And the sunrise was once again around 6:55, 6:56 earlier this morning. So let's take a look at the storm outlook. This is something that we didn't see in central Georgia yesterday. This level 1 shaded area was to the north of us, might have clipped the northernmost extent of Jasper County, and then we saw a severe thunderstorm warning out of that warning area here in Bibb County yesterday. So number one, I'm going to go ahead and talk about, we do have a level 1 out of 5 risk for seeing some strong to severe weather today. If you do see any of these severe thunderstorms, pretty isolated in nature and pretty scattered in nature. So just like yesterday, maybe only impacting a county 2 or 3. So it's not going to be widespread by any means, not going to give all of us any sort of rain. Gusty winds and hail are going to be the 2 potential threats, just like what we saw yesterday with any of these severe storms that do pop up. But now you notice there are plenty of areas to the north and the northwest in central Georgia that are not included in this day 1 outlook. Well, we did see a warning pop up yesterday in an area that was not in a severe weather outlined area. So everyone in central Georgia, I think you should kind of treat it as we do have a level 1 out of 5 risk for seeing some strong to severe storms. But due to the unpredictable nature of them, it's going to be very hard to pinpoint exactly where they are until they start to sprout up. Live doing some nowcasting with it later on this afternoon into the evening hours. And this is a pretty low-end level 1 threat. This is what we're going to see very, very frequently once we get towards the end of May into months like June, July, August, when our temperatures are at the warmest of the calendar year and our humidity is absolute through the roof. So we'll start to see maybe a good amount of these level 1 shaded areas due to the summertime and the pop-up nature of some scattered showers and more so the scattered thunderstorms that can pop up when you do have the sufficient ingredients. So let's go through FutureView. Let's play it out through the rest of today. Activity starting to be a little more widespread, starting to flare up a little bit around 3 p.m. Let's go ahead to about 4 and 5 o'clock. You're not seeing maybe the best coverage in central Georgia, but take that with a grain of salt once again. This is really just kind of showing us the potential. So it looks like everywhere around us, including central Georgia, has the potential for seeing that activity flare up as we go into the late afternoon and evening hours. So maybe prime time when you are making that evening commute home from work, you're going to want to take a look at the radar and make sure that you're not going to be driving through any intense thunderstorms in nature, because we saw they can do a lot in producing some hail in nature. That's obviously going to be a problem for your windshield and maybe pose some dents on your car if you are to drive through a severe thunderstorm like that. But some darker colors in these very localized clusters that we see maybe down I-16. Don't get pinpointed in the locations because each model run is changing, and the very next model run that comes out, we could see all of these dark reds and these yellows and these oranges all over central Georgia. But still going to be very scattered in nature is looking like the consensus, and continuing into the evening hours. Still not even going away by the time we are already past sunset, going into the nighttime hours. We still have some lingering rain, but the activity will begin to weaken as we head into the nighttime hours. Temperatures will begin to cool down. Hopefully many areas are receiving that rain, and those rain showers are using up any of that potential fuel in the form of moisture and surface heat and warm temperatures throughout the day, and it doesn't have a lot left to work with. So let's go all the way into the nighttime hours. Some rain being very pesky. Those areas that didn't see any rain, it's holding on to those last little bit of ingredients that it can into the nighttime and overnight hours. And then we go into your Thursday morning right here. So FutureView seems to think that, hey, we may have continuous scattered showers all the way through into the early morning hours tomorrow. I think the severe weather risk ends as we go into the nighttime hours tonight. And then if you do have any rain, it could just be lingering in the form of some showers overnight, but still not necessarily buying that according to one model run, like I said. So this is 5 a.m. on Thursday. At the very least, we'll have some partly cloudy skies still remaining in the forecast. Hopefully enough gaps in them to continue to maybe get an image of the sunrise. Now that we have that kind of quartet, that quad view of all our sky cams, it is just an amazing spectacle to see the sun rising in 4 different locations at once. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for some semi-clear mornings in the days that we do have ahead. Let's go through your Thursday. All right, we're going through the morning hours, going to the midday hour, and once again, wham, 3 o'clock, right on the dot. Not saying it's going to be exactly that time frame, but when our temperatures are getting at their peak for the day, activity begins to flare up. Some yellows, some oranges, even some dark reds in some very local areas due to the surface heat that we do have and all those ingredients that can be suitable for stronger and severe weather. And then we go into 5 p.m., continuing to see mainly the scattered nature of all of this rain and all of these storms. And as we go throughout the next couple of hours into the evening hours, we actually try to see some of this rain cluster together, maybe start to get some organization, be a little bit more widespread, which is still going to be a good and a bad thing. Obviously, you never want the severe weather, so that's the bad part of it. But the good part is it could lead to some widespread rain at the very least. Many areas have not seen rain since about 2 weeks ago when we did have some evening into nighttime severe thunderstorms that rolled through, and that mainly affected areas to the north of us, but we had a couple that trained down into central Georgia. That was the last time we got any rain other than the scattered rain that we got yesterday, and Bibb County obviously lucked out with seeing some rain, even though it was of the severe variety with that severe thunderstorm warning. So it's kind of a give or take relationship. So you can be happy for the good, but obviously with these severe thunderstorms, our best guidance for you is just to continue to stay inside and try to stay away from windows, especially with the hail that can be embedded within this. That hail can obviously be very, very hard, and if it gets large in nature, it can start to crash against your windows, and if your windows aren't built the best, or maybe they have some cracks in them, they can go ahead and crash through that. So I know it's really cool to see maybe the hail pelting outside and getting an image of that, but I promise you that hail will still be on the ground right after the thunderstorm has passed you. So continue to just stay away from windows indoors if you do have any of these severe thunderstorm warnings pop up. So going into the nighttime for tomorrow, Thursday evening, I guess I should say, into night, still seeing the clustering together of some pretty heavy rainfall rates, once again in the orange and the red colors. And there's no real rhyme or reason with the direction of all of this rain that we continue to receive. I think this rain is just going to pop up and it's going to kind of hopscotch. It's not going to go in one set direction. It's definitely going to go north. It might go south, might go east, because it's just going to tap into the environments where the ingredients are suitable enough to continue to keep those showers going into the nighttime hours. But we do see it fizzle out after it's used up all of that available energy. Temperatures continue to cool down into the early morning hours on Friday. And then Friday, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this. I'm going to take a mental picture of it. Hopefully, we just have some very thin high-level cloud cover, some gaps in that cloud cover. We do have a beautiful sunrise that will be in order as we kick off your Friday morning, the end of the work week. And then Friday, as of this morning, it wasn't looking that impressive. So I'm taking the newest look at the model runs right here with you right now. Maybe a couple of very light green dots, some sprinkles that could pop up just around the lunchtime hours. But we see activity flaring up all around us, not necessarily to the extent that it does for today and for tomorrow. So hopefully Friday will trend mostly dry in nature. And if it doesn't trend mostly dry in nature, hopefully we are just dealing with maybe some lighter showers, not necessarily of the severe variety. And it does look like there still is the potential all around us. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on what the models do have and which way the models do trend as we trek closer, specifically to your Friday evening and your Friday night plans. But right now, it does look like most of central Georgia does remain fairly dry. And you will see this reflected on your 7-day forecast. I do believe that the chances of rain and the coverage of rain are going to go down from what we have for today and your Thursday. And as far as FutureView goes, as the overnight hours into early Saturday morning, most rain is still going to be up there along the stationary boundary that has kind of just parked itself to the north of us. And we may very well get another system that is going to form, and it's going to park itself up there. So North Georgia is really lucking out with most of the rain, while it's just very scattered in nature and very isolated in nature down here in central Georgia. Let's pick it up with the long-range models. Let's go into your Saturday evening. Still looking like activity could be present all around us, maybe central Georgia. But as we go into the nighttime hours, still seeing some of those green and some of those blue splotches. Nothing really for certain, but I do believe the rain chances aren't as impressive for your Saturday. Sunday, the consensus I've seen all morning is the long-range models are hinting at down to the south and the southwest of us. The ingredients are going to be a lot more suitable for some scattered showers and some thunderstorm activity, not necessarily here in central Georgia either. This is where the agreement once again ends as we head into the beginning of next week. If the European's right, then maybe our western counties see some showers and some storms. If the GFS is right, then still down to the south and the southwest of us in northern Florida, just along the Georgia-Florida state line, they'll start to see some showers and storms. Then going into Tuesday, I definitely see these rain chances finally taking a pretty good tick down, but we still have a warm and a moist air mass that will be in place. We're going to have that in place until a big organized system like a cold front actually moves the entirety through central Georgia. Now, obviously, that can create some widespread severe weather chances. And just looking ahead at what the long-range models have for next week, some sort of system trying to initialize over to the west and the northwest of us as we go into the midweek. So getting close to this time next week. Let's take it all the way to the end of our long-range models. And it does look like it does take the shape of some kind of a line of organization, maybe indicating a cold front, but there's not a lot of agreement as of right now. No extended severe weather outlooks that we should be concerned with. It's something, once again, that we're just going to continue to stay updated with model run by model run, kind of seeing where these trends go each and every time that we come in and see all this new model data and get a better idea. But we obviously have more of a focus on today and tomorrow, the more immediate term, and how we're going to wrap up the work week, especially what the forecast is going to be during those late afternoon hours when you are making your way home from work, maybe when you're going to pick up your kids from after school activities, any sports games that are ongoing into the nighttime and evening hours. But then this goes all the way out to the extended forecast, like to give you a good glimpse of maybe of what could be ahead. So your afternoon high temperatures, low to mid 80s, maybe upper 80s, not much variation. Maybe about a 4-degree spread from the lowest high temperature I have over the next 5 days and the warmest high temperature. It's virtually going to feel the same. Saturday, however, it's going to get into the upper 80s. We could very well see that number tick up, try to flirt with the 90-degree mark, but it does still look a couple degrees shy of 90 degrees, and we're going to try to keep that 90-degree mark out of here until we at least get into the month of May. Morning lows, upper 50s, low 60s, very similar to what we've seen to start out this morning, yesterday morning, and on Monday morning. So it has that pleasant feel in the air, not necessarily getting into the lower half of the 50s where you really start to introduce a bit of a chill into the forecast. Your grillcast for tonight, I would just say have caution. It's not going to rain everywhere. I want to make that known right now. So if you have any outdoor plans, you have any grill plans with your friends and family, just have caution, keep a close eye on the radar, make sure that you have our app if there is any thunderstorm that is to ramp up in activity and you're able to receive that warning while the NOAA transmitters are down at least for one more day. So 6 to 8 p.m., that's going to still be the window where some of that thunderstorm activity can linger. The one yesterday popped up closer to the 6 p.m. hour and only lingered for about 30 minutes before it dissipated. That could very well be the case. So I'm not saying that Family Grill Night is going to be a complete washout by any means. You see some active weather pop up at 6 p.m. Okay, 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. it's going to be green spatulas to go because all of that active weather has already used up the fuel that you have in terms of surface heat and everything that it needs to maintain its intensity. And after that is going to be very short-lived as well. So the 7 and 8 p.m. hours should be clear if you see something pop up right at the 6 p.m. hour. But use that same guidance right there for hours after that, maybe getting into the nighttime hours when you're kind of getting into bed. Obviously, that doesn't really pertain to the grillcast, but still, that's going to be the nature of the showers and storms that we could see today. Another look at your allergy monitor. If you receive any rain, it is going to continue to help these allergy levels go down in terms of the pollen, provide you with a bit of a cleanse. Not seeing much change. The grass pollen is still going to be what you're most susceptible to heading out this afternoon if you do spend any extended amount of time outdoors. Probably going to get out of the normal of kind of using this just about each and every stream because by now I think most of you are probably like myself, kind of built up a little bit of that pollen tolerance. But if many of you do really like this to know which types of pollen are going to be at their highest, I'll probably continue to show it as we continue through probably the tail end of allergy season now as we kind of get into May, and May's more of that early summer month. Honestly, many of us do consider it summer with kids getting out of school and such. But grass pollen still at very high levels. Tree pollen is down to moderate levels and expected to go to low levels over the next day or two. Ragweed has not really been a problem all allergy season, and the mold levels do remain low for your Wednesday afternoon. 7-day forecast, let's break it down piece by piece. Not going to really focus on the temperatures. It is the same story each and every day. Upper 50s or low 60s to kick off each morning, and then high temperatures somewhere in the low 80s to the mid 80s to the upper 80s. I actually only have one upper 80 on there for your Saturday afternoon. The main thing I want to talk about is these shower and storm chances each day. I think the best chance, like I've been saying all week long, of seeing any showers, seeing anything in the way of a thunderstorm or a severe thunderstorm will be today and tomorrow. If I had to put money on one or the other, it would definitely probably be Thursday. That's where I've seen the models show the most potential for activity flaring up during the warmest portion of the day. Getting into Friday, we see a slight downtick, and FutureView was not impressive whatsoever on Friday. Kind of covering the bases with that because we did see activity all around us and pretty close to us in terms of those reds, in terms of those oranges on the model runs. So I do believe 30% chance. Still, Friday probably a better chance at seeing anything in the way of storms as opposed to the rest of your weekend. I still have a 20% chance of a shower or two each and every day, but it does look like the storm chances really diminish heading into your Saturday and Sunday. And then the 20% continues into Monday. I don't have a rain chance on Tuesday as of right now. Nothing was really looking that impressive to me on the long range models. But as we get closer and closer, we'll get a better idea of what the rain chances are as we kick off the work week next week. The good news is these are still pretty slim chances because this is going to be very scattered in nature. Again, not everyone is going to receive the rain as we go throughout today, tomorrow, Friday. So consider yourself lucky that you did get some free hydration from Mother Nature if you do receive some rainfall, but the chances do diminish as we go throughout the weekend. 30% and 20% still means there's a 70% and 80% chance that it doesn't rain wherever you are. So that's going to be good news. Don't go canceling any outdoor plans that you have. Just express caution before heading outdoors and keeping a close eye on the radar as you are having plans during the warmest portion of the late afternoon into the evening hours each and every day as we creep towards the weekend. But once again, if we do have any warnings that do sprout up, you can find us here on 13 WMAZ+. You can find us live on Facebook covering that warning, or if it's in the middle of our show at the 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock hours this evening, then obviously we will be coming to you each and every weather hit to provide you with new updates. If we are to get 2 warnings at once, a new warning pop up, then we'll cut into whatever we're doing news-wise and we'll update you with the latest information pertaining to those severe thunderstorm warnings. So thank you for tuning in. That was a little longer than usual, but just wanted to make sure that you guys had all the information that you needed to know to go about the rest of your work week. And if you have any weekend plans, a lot of fun stuff going on this weekend. David and I went down to Taylor County yesterday to help judge some of the dishes for the Strawberry Festival. That is something I would definitely recommend going and trying out this weekend. It was such a fun time and some very, very delicious dishes over there in Butler and Reynolds. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be back here once again. You know the deal, 10:30 each and every morning on 13 WMAZ+. And be sure to tune in once again at 10:30 on Friday. I'll give you an extended look at your weekend forecast, what's beyond your 7-day forecast, and a look at what we've been up to on the weather team because we have been pretty busy over recent weeks. Thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful Wednesday.